everyone, and welcome to the June 2024 episode of Voices of CFMA, Construction Financial Management Association's podcast featuring conversations with industry leaders, sponsored by Old Republic Surety. I'm your host, Sal Marino, CFMA's Director of Communications and an Assistant Editor for CFMA Building Profits magazine. This month, I am excited to speak with Hannah Tullous. We are both hot off the heels of CFMA's 2024 annual conference and exhibition in Grapevine, Texas, but only one of us came back with a really cool guitar. Hannah, thank you so much for joining me today. For those who don't know you, can you tell everyone what you do?
Yeah, so I make money with my company. It's Mobilia Consulting. We're a cost reduction company. We help people save money on monthly vendor spend. And what I really focus on is the wireless bill. So AT&T, Verizon, and most construction companies provide devices to employees. So we come on in and we offer to do, I know it's a trigger word, audits. So I'll call it a review. We review monthly bills and we work up cost reduction strategies, and CFOs are happy, we're happy, and we provide some great services.
So with audits or reviews and air quotes, being your passions is something you wanted to do. Did you go to school for it? What's the deal?
I dropped out of school, actually. I was studying French and went to Montreal for a summer, thinking I would move there and that would really help the language. And once I did that and I was there for the summer, I realized I don't want to go back to a classroom and I dropped out. So that's my background.
Listen, that's great. College is not right for everybody, and you probably saved yourself a lot of stress and money knowing that it wasn't.
Yeah, it wasn't for me. And I grew up in I mean, my family's background is actually construction. But I grew up in a very trade focused family, you could say. Learn a trade, learn something that can support your family, a talent that will never go out of style. And I was the weirdo that wanted to study French. And I realized, hey, it wasn't for me. And that's okay. But yeah, learning a trade, I'm a big believer in that. Big believer.
What's the family history in construction look like?
Yeah, I have an uncle that owns a construction company, another one that does roofing and scaffolding, another one that's a drafter. So I grew up, that's my background. Traveling all over the country, I would spend summers. Obviously, you see a theme here. My parents would ship me away during the summertime. Grew up the summers, I would go with aunts and uncles all around the country, from California to South Carolina, New York, down in the valley, on the border of Texas and Mexico, and just watch them and their companies build these massive buildings. And it was incredible. And that exposure, I think, really gave me an appreciation and ease within that construction community. So when I joined Mobilia, it was a very natural fit for me to focus on the construction sector. The people in construction, they have a very unique dedication and resilience and really a camaraderie that other industries don't have. My dad worked with Dell, and so I have kind of that background as well. And so when I joined Mobilia, it's like, what do I want to focus on? Tech, healthcare, construction. For me, it was a natural fit to work within that construction arena.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what brought you to CFMA?
Our company, Mobilia, we have a long history with partnering with construction companies, and we provide part of our cost reduction strategies. They're very long-term solutions, several years. So when we decided to start pursuing an association that is construction focused, like ABC, AGC, CFMA, CFMA for me was a natural step because it represents a community of professionals that are dedicated to innovation and excellence. In CFMA, our focus is on education and collaboration, and that resonated with me. Being a service provider, you have to really align yourself with people who want to collaborate and who want to stay on top of understanding and addressing unique challenges of construction finance. So that's what brought me to CFMA. That's what got me there, but what got me to stay is the people. If I can share a short story, Sal, my very first CFMA meeting was in the Central Texas chapter, which is now being promoted as the Austin chapter. We're changing our name to Austin. It was at a barbecue restaurant, of course, in Austin, and it was the first in-person meeting after the pandemic.
Okay.
The very first one. Everyone's still on edge. No one knows what to expect. My very first one, I walk in and there was 3 people there, including me. So just 2 other people. It was the speaker and the controller, Alan Cresta of DSI, who is Dynamic Systems Inc. They're a 500 million revenue a year company, 1,800 employees, and the controller was there. And we had our meeting, which basically was like a round table. And him and I, as we were leaving, it started sprinkling outside. And he stood outside in the parking lot with me, Sal. And we talked for probably half an hour. And it was wild. Like we just talked about Austin and growing up. We talked about his Lucchese boots and cruises that him and his wife go on. And I got back in the car and I'm like, how weird is that you can meet some random person, controller, who is now CFO elect of the company, and just have that instant connection. He was so invested into me and my professional journey and the resources that we offer. And it was just so simple and it felt so natural. And it was a weird time, obviously, for CFMA coming out of the pandemic, but that's what kept me in the CFMA. And that was my first exposure was, wow, the people who come here, they're invested into me just as much as I am into them on a personal level.
That is an awesome story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you are the new president of CFMA's Austin chapter, right?
April 1st.
Very cool.
It was unexpected. I thought maybe it would be a couple more years. Our chapter, I think like a lot of them, we're figuring out our groove, and it's been years in the making. And we are on the up and up. And it's amazing to see. I mean, going from my first meeting a few years ago with 3 people to on average, we have, I would say 35 to 40 people engaged. We have incredible committees and an incredible board who are just all on the same page. We're all in harmony. We want to see our chapter grow. We want to see the people who have been around for a while. We want to see them happy.
Right.
And I'm really proud of the chapter. It's been amazing to be a part of, and it all goes back to just the people who are in it.
That's amazing. And kudos to you, because I feel like if I showed up to a chapter meeting that had 3 people, I would either not say anything or I would say way too much. Like there's no in between for me.
I typically am an over talker. I sadly suffer from foot and mouth disease.
Yeah.
But in that one meeting, I was like, this is my first one. I have no idea what to expect. I'm just going to shut up and listen to these 2 people talk. But yeah, I mean, again, it was that one conversation I had with Alan that was like, you know what? Let's give this a try. Let's be engaged. It's everybody says it in CFMA. The more you put in, the more you get out. And that's what I've seen with Austin. Every individual carries their own weight. We're invested into each other's committees. We're not micromanagers. We have a great board that delegates and facilitates when needed. And the proof is in the pudding. The fact that we're growing and doing so well, it's really awesome to see.
That's great. So I know Texas is huge, but I have to assume on some level that Grapevine is somehow in your backyard. The conference last week. Tell me, what'd you think?
I loved it.
Yeah.
It is in my backyard. It's like 2 hours and like 24 minutes from my house, driveway to driveway. And I'm actually in the DFW chapter as well. I'm on the membership committee with DFW, and I have to accredit a lot of Austin's growth has been because we've been able to shadow DFW and see how well they do, because they're a pillar in the nation. Their chapter is amazing. So being able to be so close to them, we can steal a lot of their information that their president, Zach Miller, and the VP, David, they've been able to really help us. So I have to give them a shout out. They've been incredible. But yeah, Grapevine, super short drive, beautiful location. And it was such an outstanding experience. For me, that was actually my first annual conference that I got to attend the whole thing. Denver, I was only there for a portion of it, Atlanta, a portion. So yeah, that was quite an experience being able to be there start to finish.
Oh, that was your first full one. Very cool. Well, you must still be riding that energy from it.
I did cry twice because I'm introverted. And when you're up at 6 in the morning to get there first thing for your sessions, and then you go through all the festivities, you're back in your room maybe by midnight. I did cry on the way home as I ate a brownie, not because I didn't enjoy it, but because I was just tired. And that's okay because it was completely worth it.
So crying on the way home with a brownie and a brand new guitar that you won during the general session.
I was the fool that raised their hand. And I really did think, Sal, when, the speaker said, reach out and give your what if idea. What if? In my mind, I thought, okay, there's going to be at least 300 people standing up all at once. I can just stand up in the back and represent our table. It was two people that stood up. But that's okay. I was trying to represent my company and represent our chapter, and that was a fun experience.
So for those of you who were not at CFMA's annual conference in Grapevine, Texas, Mike Rayburn, who was the general session 3 speaker, had a session titled What If? And he asked the audience for their what if ideas. And Hannah, yours was?
So it has nothing to do with construction or finance. And I prefaced that when I grabbed the microphone. My what if idea is, what if instead of having to reapply sunscreen every day on your body and your face every few hours, what if sunscreen was more semi-permanent? Like a tattoo. A tattoo can last you decades before you have to, touch it in and darken it up. What if sunscreen was like that? You apply it one time every 20 years. You're protected, especially cancer patients, from the harmful UV rays that are coming through the ozone layer. Like, what if?
That's amazing. I love that idea. It won you a guitar. At the risk of oversharing, as somebody who hates the feel of lotion on their body, this suntan lotion falls into that category as well. So I am all about this.
Yeah, that's not oversharing. My husband has a thing for sand and lotion. He absolutely hates it. Like he cannot function if there's like if I touch him after putting lotion on my hand, he'll go wash like his arm off.
Excellent. Well, maybe I'll get your husband on a podcast, a separate podcast, and we can talk about lotion and
Hating
sand.
lotion and hating sand.
Exactly.
So, okay, can I say my favorite thing about the conference?
Yeah, of course.
It's the roundtable sessions. Anytime I see a roundtable session, like as you're going through your agenda to sign up, I think the roundtable sessions are the highlight. And anybody who wants to maybe humble themselves a little bit to learn from your peers, which is not the easiest thing, you need to be in the roundtable sessions. They're highly informative. Every time I sit down at those roundtables, I'm just constantly thinking about how can I apply what these CFOs are saying, these controllers are saying. How can I better serve my clients? Because what other time can you sit with a group of CFOs who are so successful in their lane, sit there and talk about the issues that they're experiencing within their company and actively trying to find a solution? This construction landscape is just ever evolving, and you have to ensure that you're on top of these challenges. So I love that the conference every year they put in the agenda these roundtable sessions. You don't see that at a lot of other conferences, and I'm really happy that they do that. And then the moderators were really good too. They had the good questions. They prompted people to kind of dive in. Don't be afraid to talk. Like, this is a safe space.
And did you attend the closing night party?
Let me see if I can remember it. It was I got there late. I had a dinner with Corpay at the Italian restaurant, which is always fun. And we got there late and I had no idea it was the Spasmatics, which I should have known because it was in the agenda. But I've actually seen them in Austin. They play a lot in Austin, and they're like, people pay a lot of money to go see them, and they're out shows. So when I walked in, they were jamming out. I was like, holy crap! Like, I had no idea CFMA went all out and got them. It was a blast. It was such a blast.
Yeah, it really was a good time. But that's a perfect segue and to talk about what you get up to in your free time.
Hiking, we're big hikers. We go to Colorado every few months. We like to hike Pikes Peak. I will pat myself on the back. It's a 16-mile loop. The incline is over 14,000 feet elevation, and we do it in one day. That's our big thing. Biking, we do a lot of volunteer work within construction. We do roofing and scaffolding. So we try to get on a project every other month for a long weekend, like 3 to 4 days. A lot of like disaster relief programs we'll work with after hurricanes or earthquakes. Um, big winos, big winos.
Very nice.
And I mean, you could probably see in the background of my office.
There you go.
That's bourbon though. We do a lot
Yes.
of hunting, try to find rare allocated bottles and we keep them in the office so that when guests come over, they don't just crack open a rare one.
That's smart. That's the way to do it.
But yeah, that's what we do. Yeah.
So what about advice? Do you have a piece of advice that you've received over the years that you've held on to, particularly close to your heart, maybe?
For CFMA in particular, well, I really think maybe in anything, it's the more you put in, the more you get out.
Yeah.
Yes, CFMA, it's a volunteer organization. Um, and we for committees and board members, you don't want to require like hours upon hours of work. But the more you put in, the more you get out. And I think it's the relationships. When you invest in the value of those relationships, you're going to get back tenfold. And I say that to everybody in any, category of your life. Just value the relationships that you have, especially in this industry, the connections that you're making personally and professionally. It leads to amazing opportunities and collaborations. And I have an example of that. It was last year at the CFMA conference in Denver. I was in one of the CFO roundtable sessions, and a gentleman next to me named Mark Zimmerman from the Baker Group in Iowa, we started talking about ESOPs. And I love ESOPs. I'm a big believer in ESOPs, employee owned companies. I think they do fantastic things for a lot of reasons that I won't get into. But I met Mark at a roundtable session a year ago. And now, and he ended up being a client of ours. But now every time I run into somebody who is thinking about having their company become ESOP, they're wondering is it the right fit? Because it's a big transition. I always say, hey, let me introduce you to a buddy of mine, Mark Zimmerman. He is so passionate about ESOPs, extremely educated, very intelligent, start to finish how it works. And now I refer people to him from all over the country, and now they have a friendship and an ally with him. And it's just incredible how, that spider web of friendship just starts to grow by meeting one person and having one conversation with them at a table. But you have to invest into that. You have to invest into that friendship and the trust and that camaraderie you build. It's for unselfish reasons. But then at the end of the day, if you need something from them, they're there for you. They show up for you. If you're a service provider or you're a general member, you're an accountant, CFO, it allows you to have a platform to establish who you are. And I've seen, good friends of mine who are CFOs, they needed to transition out of their company to another one. That's terrifying. But because you're in the CFMA, you have those resources to fall back on. And people will have your back. They look out for you. And it's because this platform gives you the ability to establish who you are, build trust, build credibility, and build those relationships. No matter what side that you're on, you have that here. And that gives you a lot of, I don't want to say job security, but it gives you a lot of security because you have these friendships you've built and you've invested in.
Well, I was going to ask you what your 2-minute elevator pitch was to get someone to join CFMA, but I think you already covered that.
It's so cheesy. I'm like such an advocate for it. It's terrible. Like, I swear, y'all, I'm not getting paid to do this.
It's not terrible. It's awesome. CFMA has so many amazing and passionate members. It's just so great to see. So we're at the end of the time. Hannah, is there anything else you'd like to say before we sign off on this episode of Voices of CFMA?
Nothing I can think of, but of course, 10 minutes from now, I will think of something. But no, thank you for inviting me. I love CFMA, and I hope to be around for a long time. And come visit us in Austin because we have a good time in Austin.
Everyone go see Hannah in Austin. And thank you all for listening to another episode of Voices of CFMA, sponsored by Old Republic Surety. If you've enjoyed this podcast, don't forget to like and subscribe and share it on social media. And if you're interested in learning more about the Construction Financial Management Association, check out cfma.org. Once again, I'm your host, Sal Marino, and I will see everyone back here next month. Thanks.